Hello, I'm Joseph from NoteFull, and I'm really excited to be with you today. As you know from the title of this video, the goal is to help you understand how to study in 10 hours so that this week or every week if you're studying 10 hours, you know exactly what to do so that you're actually noticing improvement. So before we jump into it, I want to talk with you just a little bit to give you the right mindset and perspective, which is really important, so that you use the 10 hours in a way where after the 10 hours, you feel improvement. You notice progress compared to sometimes what we've seen students go through where, you're studying a lot and you're not really noticing improvement. So that's definitely what we're going to avoid. So the good news is that we've been doing this for over a decade now. So you can imagine how many students we've helped. So there's a lot of experience that's going into just every word that I'm sharing with you to help you succeed. And that's what it's all about, making sure that your next TOEFL is your last TOEFL, or that you're really making progress every week to get your dream score. So 10 hours is a good amount of time. It's a nice number, 10, but I want you to understand that what you're going to learn here is going to help you if you're studying 10 hours a week, or maybe 5 hours before your next TOEFL. It's going to help you outline your time so you know how to study to produce results. Because as I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of information out there, right? You search for TOEFL speaking help, you get a lot of resources. So it's not so much about getting the help that you need in the sense of material, because there's so much out there, but it's how do you use it to actually produce results hour by hour. So that's what I'm going to guide you with right now. And so I'm going to jump into a little document here that I'm going to create so that after this video, during the video, I'm going to create this document that's going to outline how to study, hour by hour, so you get the maximum results, so that you really notice improvement, you get your dream score. And then at the end, if you go to the link below the video, you'll have it to download, so you can print it out and use it, and right away we can start creating results for you. So let's jump in now and actually outline these 10 hours, make sure we're on track to succeed the best that we can, okay? So let's jump into our virtual classroom. I hope you have your scratch paper with you so you can take notes. Feel comfortable pausing the video and rewinding, because it's really important what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and jump right in right now. So here we go. So if you look on the screen here, the first thing that I want to share with you is a little quote. And it's pretty common, I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's this idea, sorry about that. Our chalkboard's having fun with us. So, if you fail to plan, you can plan to fail, right? So you've heard that before. And the fact that this is so common shows you how important it is that even if you have just 10 hours or 2 hours or 5 hours, we want to monitor them and we want to outline them so we get the best results possible. So this is a great quote, nice one to think about, might help you with question 1 and 2 of the speaking. So when we think about 10 hours, so let me go ahead and shift things up around here. And let's say, okay, we have 10 hours, a nice even number. Essentially what we want to do is we want to think of these 10 hours as kind of the beginning where it's warm-up. We have perspective. And this is so rare because I know how easy it is to just jump in, let me practice, let me record myself, let me go do different things. But that doesn't really help you improve as effectively as possible. What you want to do is gain perspective so that you have the right mindset, so that when you're studying, you're building an understanding that really helps you when you sit down and take the TOEFL. The next thing that you want to do is actually train. So what that means is you're drilling, you're building skills, you're focusing on habits so that you're actually creating improvements by overcoming, weaknesses. And the best way to train is that where you start with kind of an evaluation. Well, I don't mean kind of, I mean like an evaluation. You practice a few questions, 1 through 6, you record yourself, and then you listen to yourself and just give yourself an overall score. And then at the end, you evaluate again. And sometimes this can be a little bit scary, because this is where you actually see if your studies and your hours produce results. And sometimes it can be a bit disappointing, totally normal. We realize we need, you know what, I need 20 hours or I need 30 hours. But this is honest. You know, this really tells us when you compare the recordings that you started with the recordings that you ended with, did you actually improve? Now, since we have a lot of different students, I want to tell you that at NoteFull, you know, we've really learned that the majority of students that know about us, you know, you, others, are already familiar with the TOEFL. So I'm just going to go through the introduction very quick. You know, on the TOEFL, we all know we have 4 sections, right? The reading, listening, speaking, and writing, RLSW. Between the reading and listening, you get a 10-minute break. When you come back, you start the speaking section. And in the speaking section, you have 6 questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So each question has its own little unique presentation of information that you then have to record an answer to, right? You get some information, you get a question, you get some prep time. So right now, we're not going to go into the details of the individual questions because there's just so much information out there. I know that's not what you really need. What you need is, how can I actually study hour by hour to improve? So the first thing I'm going to share with you is this little screen here, which is actually the ETS TOEFL speaking rubric that's been released. And what that does is it tells you exactly what the graders are looking for. Now, the challenge with this is that it's so general, it doesn't really give you the exact method for answering each question correctly. But I've noticed that a lot of students don't even pay attention to this. And that means you don't have what we talked about here, you know, the right perspective, because you're not even aware of what you're training to improve. You're just kind of following strategies and techniques, which isn't so ideal. So as you can imagine, this video is kind of where we're starting our 10 hours. So this video is going to be 10, 15, 20 minutes, not quite sure, but it's definitely going to leave you with clarity so that with the rest of the 9.5 hours, you'll know how to study. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I want you, when you click on the link below, you'll be taken to our site page, and then you'll have not only the video that you can review, but you'll have the PDF that we're creating, and you'll have this from ETS also available. So you want to spend literally 15 to 30 minutes understanding how you're being evaluated. And you see I'm circling the concepts that you want to consider. Now, general description, what does that mean? Well, when we look at the ratings, for those of you who are not familiar, every question, you know you have 6, is going to be evaluated by 2 raters. And they're each going to give you a score of 1, 2, 3, or 4. Those scores are averaged. You know, there's a 0 if there's no recording, of course. Like, you don't even say anything. You don't have to worry about that. But what happens is that when those overall scores are given, you know, the TOEFL ETS uses an scale, and then they convert that to a score out of 30, which is the score that you get. Now, this is why you can get stuck. Because think about it. You have just 4 ratings that you can fall into. And the majority of you watching this video are going to be in the 3s, working hard to jump into the level of a 4. So this is really powerful because if you've gotten a 23, let me go over here just to give you a little more perspective. Okay, so we want to study in these 10 hours to raise our rating. That's why we're studying, right? We're not studying to master strategy. We're not studying to experience all these 100 different questions we can get. We're studying to raise our rating, to have graders go from giving us a 3 to giving us a 4. So how do we do that? We got to study the difference in the language. So the 10 hours is for you, right? This video is not going to be 10 hours long, but let's just go ahead and look at general description to help us get a sense of what that means. So let's read this one here together. In each of your 6 answers, what do we want to get your dream score? Anywhere from a 24 to 30 out of 30. The response fulfills the demands of the task with at most minor lapses in completeness. Now, well, let's keep reading. It is highly intelligible and exhibits sustained, coherent discourse. A response at this level is characterized by all of the following, which is delivery, language use, and topic development. Now let's look at the 3. The response addresses the task appropriately but may fall short of being fully developed. It is generally intelligible and coherent, so that's not a big difference, with some fluidity of expression, though it exhibits some noticeable lapses in the expression of ideas. A response at this level is characterized by at least two of the following. All of a sudden you have some clarity, right? Now isn't that amazing? This can be the transformation for your dream score, because now instead of just studying, you're studying to raise your rating, our rating. And how do you do that? By making sure that you print this out, this rubric, you review it regularly, and you make sure that the strategies, the tips, and the practice that you're doing is helping you develop this. Now, as I said before, my goal is to outline this for you. You can click on the link to the bottom of the page. It's going to make sure you have more there. But with the time that we have, now you realize that what you want to do, okay, is you want to spend the first hour approximately. So hour 1, memorizing, mastering, understanding. Well, you don't have to memorize, but I think you get the idea. You need to know it. Memorizing, understanding the rubric. The rubric. Now, that basically, in that 1 hour, doesn't mean that you're just reviewing it over and over again, right? What else, or the other thing that you want to do is you want to start using this hour 2 to outline your 10 hours, or your 9 hours, because this video counts, right? So your 10 hours or maybe 9 hours. Now, when you outline your 10 hours, it's actually maybe printing this out as a PDF, filling things out, visualizing yourself doing it. Now, this can be maybe half an hour. It can be 45 minutes. This is a general outline and a guide, but essentially what it means is even if you've taken the TOEFL 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 times, you're not alone, students have done that, or if you've never taken it, whether it's your first 10 hours or you've been studying for years and it's your, 10th 10 hours or 30th 10 hours, you always want to take a moment to review the rubric, to outline your 10 hours. Now you're a professional. You're actually going into something you're doing and you're experimenting and learning to succeed. And if you do this, every 10 hours can be more effective because you can discover, okay, how did I study before? Was it helpful? How am I going to study later, right? To get your dream score. And you start with understanding, I got to raise my rating. I have to understand how graders evaluate me. Now, so the first hour is spent on developing this, memorizing, understanding the rubric, outlining your 10 hours, which you'll be able to do at the end of this video. You might be way faster, totally fine. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to specialize. What we've noticed is that a lot of students tend to fall into, let me just practice. And let me practice all 6 questions over and over. And sometimes they go over, like 30, 40 questions, and they don't really feel improvement. They're getting the same score. So specializing means that you're going to spend about 2.5 hours on questions 1 and 2. Now, how does that work? Remember we talked about training over here? Okay, so your first hour was on your perspective, right? You remember that. Rubric, all that good stuff. You're prepared for success. Now it's this part. So essentially what that, or actually let me say kind of this part in units. So there's plenty of material out there to practice. You click on the link, you'll have some from us. So essentially what you want to do is you want to begin by evaluating. So that means you get a question, you practice, you record yourself, you go to the rubric, it won't be easy, but you evaluate yourself. What score would you give yourself? Be fair, be honest, and just allow it to be the start of your path to success. Okay, so you start with that, right? So let's say you give yourself a 3, right? You want to understand, why did you give yourself a 3? Write 1 or 2 things down. Did you have delivery, but you don't think you had good language use, but you had good topic development, or something along those lines? Or whatever you want to kind of put down, but you take a moment to evaluate yourself. Now, the next thing that you do is you train. And this is where you spend maybe about 30 minutes gathering research. Now, we talked about this before. We're gathering training material. This means you register for a program. Maybe you already have some. You get your TOEFL book out. You search online. You do whatever it is you need to do, right? But you spend half an hour getting your TOEFL material to train you on questions 1 and 2. Pretty easy on YouTube, on Google, if you have a NoteFull program, or if you have an ETS book or a combination. But the reason why we want to limit this is because another challenge that we notice for students is that they tend to do this randomly. So every time they feel they're not doing well, what they do is, okay, I got to find a new strategy. I got to do new questions. So it's almost like everything changes. But you don't want to do that. You want to trust the material that you have. It's almost like if you were sick and you had a doctor you trusted, you would follow that doctor's advice until you got healthy. And you might not get healthy easily or quickly. It might take time and a lot of meetings with the doctor, right? But you don't want to go back and forth to 10, 20 different doctors. Maybe in the beginning you try 2 or 3, but then you got to trust one, or else you're going to be going in circles. And we see that a lot. So again, by knowing that you're doing your best to improve in 10 hours, you take care. You're not just watching random videos that might not be helpful or studying 20 different vocabulary words that don't really apply. The fact that you actually now say, oh, I only got 30 minutes, I need to choose with care, because this is your success. So it can be 30 minutes, can be 50 minutes, can be 2 hours. You know yourself best, but 30 minutes is a really good amount of time. Then what you want to do is train. So you spend about, maybe 1.5 hours approximately training. And training means you're studying, mastering, memorizing, reviewing the training material, and using the questions that you already did. You don't need new questions when you train to master what you're learning, right? If you're learning how to develop an idea, how to give strong examples to support yourself, you train, you learn, how do I do this? And you do the same questions you did before. You can do new ones, nothing wrong with that, but you know that your purpose is not just to practice questions, but to improve a skill. So 1.5 hours of training, because you want to have the perspective, okay, after this, I'm going to evaluate again. And when you evaluate, it's like, okay, am I ready to improve? Did I get better? You record yourself and you listen. Oop, that was interesting. You record yourself and you listen. And again, you want to be honest with yourself. It might be a little bit stressful, but you just pretend that you're listening to someone else's recordings and you give the evaluation. Did you raise your rating to a 4, or are you still a 3? But you also want to be aware of, even though the grader might still give you a 3, doesn't mean you're a low 3 or what you were before. You can be a higher 3. But now you know, oh, you know what? I thought I could do this in 10 hours, but I realized I need 20 because I need to make another jump and I know I'm close. Now at least you're preparing for your success in a way that can really help you and motivate you though, right? Okay. So you do this and you spend about 30 minutes on it, right? And so what does that equal? That equals about 2.5 hours. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to do the same thing with questions 3 and 5 and 4 and 6. Now the reason why we're going to specialize with 3 and 5 and 4 and 6 is because, I'm just going to make sure I use the same color for consistency for you. So specialize with 3 and 5 is because question 3 is where you are listening to, well, you're reading something, you're listening to a conversation. Question 5 is you're listening to a conversation, so it's conversational. It's a different kind of language that you're going to be expressing. And you basically do the exact same thing, right? You take half an hour to gather training, or you evaluate yourself, gather training material, train, evaluate yourself. Then, of course, as you can already imagine, you're going to spend, so this will be 2.5 hours, right? Then you're going to specialize. You're going to be focused. You're going to know, what you want to produce. and you're going to get a 4, and you're going to do the same for questions 4 and 6, 2.5 hours. Because I might not have made it so clear, but when you look at the rubric, independent speaking rubric is actually for questions 1 and 2, right? And then if you scroll down, what you have integrated speaking rubrics. And when you scroll down here, you see that this is how you're evaluated for 3 and 5 and 4 and 6. So for questions 3 and 5 and 4 and 6, you'll be looking at the integrated speaking rubrics because that's where you're actually processing different kinds of information, right? You read and then you speak. And you see how you're evaluated from a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. The majority of you will be scoring, from a 2 to a 3, and mainly from a 3 to a 4. So again, you study the differences. And let's just take a look at the language here. So let's go ahead and bring back the blue color. We have the same kind of things that we're used to: general description, delivery, language use, and topic development. So when we look at 4, it says the response fulfills the demands of the task with at most minor lapses in completeness. Sounds familiar, right? It is highly intelligible and exhibits sustained coherent discourse. A response at this level is characterized by all of the following. Now you know why there are so many companies helping you with the TOEFL, because this is very general and unclear, but that's the benefit, because you're not just relying on this rubric. I mean, you are evaluating yourself according to it, but you're gathering training material from people like us, I hope NoteFull and others, and getting the best help from people who've actually helped other students succeed and have done a better job at actually understanding and telling you what the graders are listening for and how to produce it. But you got to know this yourself too. And then the same thing with 3, right? If we look at this, the response addresses the task appropriately, but may fall short of being fully developed. It is generally intelligible and coherent with some fluidity of expression, though it exhibits some noticeable lapses in the expression of ideas. A response at this level is characterized by at least 2 of the following. So now, as you've done this for question 1 and 2, you're going to notice the beauty of studying with specialization, because now how you study questions 1 and 2 will help you be more effective in studying questions 3 and 5 and 4 and 6. And again, I know that you might be thinking, but where do I get the practice material, the training material, all this stuff? If you found this video helpful, click on the link below. We'll take you right to the page on our site where we discuss the speaking in detail. You get the help you need. You can always register for more if you want even more guidance. But this is the way through it. Now we've spent about 8.5 hours. So 8.5 hours are done. Check mark, complete, well done, smiley face. Right, this is a thumbs up. A 3-finger thumbs up. I don't know, maybe that's a bird? Yeah, this is his mouth. Flying. But anyway, so the idea is, okay, what are we going to do for the rest, right? We have about 1 to 1.5 hours. And everybody's different. You might have more. Let me actually start on a new page for you here. Okay. What you can imagine now is you got to get ready for the TOEFL. So in 1.5 hours, whatever may be left over, because you're going to make your plan, what you think is best for you. You might want to concentrate on questions 1 and 2 more than 4 and 6 because you realize that's challenging. You might not want to make it even. But for 1.5 hours, again, you're going to be similar, but you're going to practice all questions 1 through 6. So what you're going to do is, again, you're going to go back to the basics of reviewing the rubric. By now you know it, you've got it mastered, memorized, no problem. You can evaluate yourself, so that'll be really fast. Then you evaluate. You record your answers on 6 questions and you score yourself. And then what you do is you review your training. And when you review on what you need, because what you may not realize is that as you study in this way, you're discovering very clearly what you have trouble with. So what's going to happen is that what you've been working on here, right, what you've been working on as you've been specializing, is going to appear maybe here again. So you're going to be more efficient because you're going to know what to do. But I would avoid, you know yourself better, but I would avoid getting new material. You want to review the material that you currently have to build that skill, to be efficient, to trust, to stay connected, and to actually do something that can give you improvement over time. I promise you this will work, this will help you, and you just want to trust it, and this is what we have to do. And be open to the fact that 10 hours might be enough for us. Maybe we need 30 hours. We just have to really just be honest with our evaluation over here. So we review our material, we go back and forth, and we do it again. So this is more loose of just evaluate and practice until your recordings start to get the scores that you want. And just to give you a little sense of some perspective here, I'm going to give you, in green, some tips. The first one is you want to visualize. At this point when you're doing all 6 questions, and even before, you want to close your eyes and picture you're in the TOEFL Center. We have a lot of students who sometimes do very well when they practice, but when they go to the TOEFL Center, they don't do well because it's almost like a new experience, even if they've taken the TOEFL before. The next thing you want to do is maybe practice with some noisy music in the background. So what I mean by that is not super loud and distracting, but what you do is you play some music, on your phone, but loud, not in your headphones, in the background that kind of mimics, which means copies, noise of the test center, other students doing the speaking section and distracting you. The other thing is you want to copy the situation so you know on the TOEFL you only have 3 sheets of scratch paper. I hope you knew that. So that means that you should take notes with only 3 sheets, use them efficiently and effectively. Prepare yourself for it. And the other thing, here's a big one. You ready for it? Smile. Are you smiling? It's tough. The TOEFL's not easy. So you gotta let yourself smile, or else it can just be so frustrating and distracting, with the stress of it, that you don't really give your full power and your energy. Which is the next thing, which I like to say this. Full brain power. It can be so easy to fall into templates, strategies, and structure and forget that you're actually expressing yourself as an individual with your language being evaluated by another human, seeing how successful you are at expressing yourself in the language. So you don't want to take that lightly. It's not just strategy and tips that are going to help, though those are very helpful. It's your comprehension, it's your understanding, it's your critical thinking. It's basically, you're an academic professional, you have a lot of skill, you just need to bring your full brain power, and you'll be surprised. This enough can be all you need to get your dream score. So, this is available for download. Let's go ahead and talk to each other a little bit now. All right, so we talked about your 10 hours, how to use them effectively. Did you find that helpful? I hope there was a little inspiration in it too, because sometimes when you're studying by yourself, it can feel lonely. And I hope at least with this video, you're not alone, and that it's not so easy. It takes good and strong support. It takes your discipline and your commitment. And, doing this for so long, 10 years now, working with you and others like you, all I can say that I really want to say to you is that you will get your dream score. Whether you need 10 hours or 20, or some of us working from getting a 12 on the speaking to a 26, maybe it'll take, 60, 100 hours, depending on what we have to overcome. But it can be done. It will be done. You can and will do it. And the benefit, at least from the challenge of taking the TOEFL and how sometimes it can be unfair because of the way you're graded and all this stuff, at least at the end of it, you'll have strength in your ability to communicate and more confidence, right? Because you have that score. So I hope you found this video helpful. It's all about you and helping you succeed every step of the way. And if you found it helpful, couple things, maybe not maybe, I want to ask you directly, go ahead and subscribe. The good thing is we're going to boost up the channel again with more videos to help you, so that way you get them. So you can do that now, real quick and easy. The other thing that you can do is click on the link below to make sure that you go to the page and you get even more resources. You have this page that you can download and print out for yourself. You'll have the rubric there, which is also available on the ETS site. We'll show you where to get that. And if you like the video, don't forget to hit thumbs up. It's always, refreshing to see that because it lets us know that we're doing a good job for you. So it was a pleasure talking with you. Click on the link below, subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. And no matter what, good luck on your 10 hours. We'll keep making videos to help you with it every step of the way to your dream score, all right? Have a wonderful day. Good luck. Watch this video again if you need to. Until next time, bye-bye.